NFL Week 2 is here. On Thursday Night Football, the Washington football team beat the New York Giants 30-29. And, dude, I wake up this morning and I honestly, I feel bad for Giants fans. I think those people are finally starting to wake up to the realization of what their season is going to look like. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Giants have a great, I think people don't realize I don't ever root against anybody or any team. I'm not that kind of person. I don't believe, based on what I've seen, leading up to the year, and then in the first two games, this is not going to be a good year for the New York Giants. It's going to be an ugly, long, grueling year for the Giants, and I feel bad for Giants fans. And I hope I'm wrong, but I feel bad for you guys who are waking up today and realize, oh no, what have we got ourselves into this year? There's a lot to be said. Number one, the Giants should have won this game. I don't know how you don't walk away from this game feeling like the Giants just had a massive missed opportunity. The biggest reason to me was penalties. They had 11 penalties in this game. Pretty much all of them were costly. The extended drives for Washington, they allowed, they gave them second chances. They hurt drives for New York. For example, on one drive, they had 2 false starts in a row, and a 3rd and 5 turned into a 3rd and 15. That cannot happen if you want to win. And then, of course, on the final drive for Washington, there were 2 big mistakes. One would have been a penalty. The Giants luckily caught it before it happened. It was a 3rd and 5, and the Giants had to waste a timeout. Waste is the wrong word there. It's the end of the game. That's why you keep your timeouts, is for that moment. But the Giants had too many men in the field, so they had to take a timeout. Would have been a penalty. And then Washington kicked the game-winning field goal and missed. And and Giants fans are probably celebrating, of course. Yes! Oh, hallelujah, we win! Oh, but then that little yellow hanky, the one you've seen all game, showed up again. And the Giants were offsides. And Washington got a re-kick. And on the re-kick, they made it. Washington won 30-29. There was also, by the way, a long Daniel Jones touchdown run that got called back. Guess what? By a penalty. And it's the same story over and over again with this game yesterday. Penalty, penalty, penalty. The Giants looked disorganized and undisciplined, which is a very crazy thing to say because I know their coach, Joe Judge, is a stickler. He's a guy who's very, very attentive to detail and all about discipline. His whole message is, I'm a tough guy, rah, rah, rah. We will be disciplined. Didn't see that, at all against Washington. And not only did they have a touchdown called back, they also had one dropped. Darius Slayton dropped a touchdown. Just painful. Again, the Giants fans had probably just a brutal long night last night. It could have been a slightly better throw, I guess. I think Daniel Jones, maybe Darius Slayton was wide open deep. Maybe he takes a little bit off and it's 3 or 4 inches, not as far downfield. But you're splitting hairs at that point. At some point, if it catches the guy's hands, you got to catch the ball. That should have been a catch. That should have been a touchdown. You got to make a play in that moment. Darius Slayton did not. And receivers really made a difference in this game, both for Washington and against New York. Washington had a number of really big catches, whether it was Ricky Seals-Jones, who had a big catch in the right corner of the end zone, or Terry McLaurin had a bunch of big catches. One, he had 11 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. Logan Thomas had a big catch. J.D. McKissick had a big catch on basically a wheel route down the right sideline. Adam Humphries had a big catch at the end of the game. All those people had big catches in key moments for Washington. And the Giants receiving corps had opportunities as well, but they failed to make those plays. Darius Slayton dropped a touchdown. Kenny Golladay had a memorable drop that I cannot get out of my head. It was not a good performance for the Giants receiving corps. Then on top of all of that, there was only one turnover all game. Washington quarterback Taylor Heinicke threw an interception late in the 4th quarter. And it just felt like the Giants were handed opportunity after opportunity late in this game. And I really, the only good news to walk out of this game for the Giants fans is, their quarterback, we'll get to that in a moment, but then also their kicker, Graham Gano, was 5 for 5 kicking field goals. He's actually kicked and made 35 field goals in a row. It's kind of a bad thing, though, too. Yes, your kicker's good. Oh, congratulations. But also, you never want to be kicking, settling for 5 field goals in one game. That happens because the Giants were 4 for 12 on 3rd down. That's not great. It's really, really, in fact, really bad. So I want to talk about quarterbacks now. And we'll start with Washington because they won. Feels right to do that. I know a lot of people want to hear about Taylor Heinicke. Last year in the playoffs, Taylor Heinicke made his first ever NFL start in the playoffs again against Tom Brady, starting for the Washington football team. And on Thursday night, we learned that that was not a fluke. That playoff game where he played really well, almost beat Tom Brady. Taylor Heinicke can play a little bit. He's a very solid, good quarterback. Threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. And by the way, he doesn't have the weirdest name ever, but I know that the I and the E are easy to get confused, and I have a little trick I used to remember how to spell his name. If anybody, I don't know if this is helpful for anybody, but all you have to remember in order to spell his name correctly, it's the H-E-I. After that, it's the name Nick, like the name Nick, and then the letter E. H-E-I, Nick E. N-I-C-K. H-E-I-N-I-C-K-E. H-E-I, Nick E. That's how you remember how to spell his name. It really helped me when I was like, oh, that's how you, I just, from then on, oh, Taylor Heinicke, I haven't screwed up his name ever since figuring that out. I loved watching this dude win. He wasn't drafted. I remember early in 2020, it was at almost 2 years ago now, I guess a year and a half, roughly, January, February 2020, when Taylor Heinicke was the backup on the XFL the St. Louis Battlehawks. I remember him in the blue jersey on the sideline behind Duran Ta'amu and Brogan Roback, the quarterback who was with the Browns on Hard Knocks. Like, he was the third string quarterback on an XFL team in February 2020, and now he's the starting quarterback for the Washington football team. That's an unbelievable story. What a cool journey he has had. Now, this might be unpopular. I want to be clear. Great story. Love the dude. Love his playing style. Taylor Heinicke is really scrappy. He makes good decisions. He's fun to watch. I don't mean to rain on the parade here, but I would not build around Taylor Heinicke. He's a perfect backup. You trust him. He can play if he needs to. He can win games. But Taylor Heinicke should not be the franchise quarterback in Washington. When I look for quarterbacks, I'm looking for the next Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray, someone with crazy high potential. I'm looking for basically like the Ferrari of quarterbacks. And I would say that Taylor Heinicke is like the Ford Focus of quarterbacks. You trust him enough. He's fine. He's good enough for now. And I would keep Heinicke until I find something better. And I would not get rid of him. Even after, if I found a Justin Herbert or maybe Malik Willis at Liberty is a guy who's got crazy high potential in college right now. Maybe they draft Malik Willis. I would still keep Taylor Heinicke on my team. I trust him. He's a great backup. He can win if my starting quarterback gets hurt. But the entire time I would have Heinicke on my football team, I would be looking for an upgrade. And that's really how I feel. Taylor Heinicke is exactly what Washington needs right now. He's not going to last forever. But I would recommend fans enjoy it while it lasts. He's fun. He's cool. He can win a little bit. He's a good story. He's accurate. He's a pretty solid decision maker. Only had a couple throws last night where I was like, I wouldn't make, that's a bad throw into like triple coverage. Don't make that happen. He can extend plays a little bit. But he's also small, has a limited arm. I just don't look at Taylor Heinicke and go, oh, wow, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for his potential. But I like what he's done. He's done good work so far. I wouldn't want the guy forever. Now let's talk about Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. I thought Daniel Jones had a great game against Washington. And I know it's popular to say he's a terrible quarterback, and you hear that all the time, but he's not terrible. And I've been saying this for a long, long time. Daniel Jones is just okay. He's not awful, and he's not great. Like, remember, both Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert were the number 6 overall pick in back-to-back years. Daniel Jones, number 6 overall in 2019. Justin Herbert, 6 overall, 2020. Justin Herbert clearly has way more potential than Daniel Jones. Just ask you, who would you rather have? Daniel Jones or Justin Herbert? Even Giants fans have to be honest about that. It's a very easy decision. And I'm still waiting. It's year 3 for Daniel Jones now. And I'm still waiting for him to have the impressive pop-off kind of moment that Justin Herbert had the entire year last year and last week, week 1 against Washington. However, to be clear, this was the best game I have ever seen Daniel Jones play as an NFL quarterback. And I have been really critical of the guy his entire career, mostly simply because I have no patience, because I think he's a limited quarterback. He's got a limited ceiling that I think can never become a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And once you realize, hey, my guy can never become a Ferrari, I kind of give up on him. I'm like, like he doesn't have that kind of potential. But I did walk away from this game thinking, this Daniel Jones guy, he lives to see another day. If he was awful, I would have said it. I've said it before when Daniel Jones played awful. And I remember Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. I will never forget Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. He's not Trubisky. Like, he's not awful. He's totally fine. He's decent. He's solid. And actually, like, based on last night, he played pretty solid. And if he can do that the rest of his career, that's a great performance what he did last night. He's only 24 years old. It's year 3 of his career, his second year in the same offense. Like, there's a chance here that it goes really well and Daniel Jones actually stays in New York. And I just want to be clear, like, I have an open mind. And I've had a closed mind this entire time. But, okay, he's 24 years old. It's only year 3. Let's see how the year goes before we condemn Daniel Jones, especially because he's playing well. Like, if he plays terrible by week 8, if he's, like, awful every week until week 8, by week 8, I'll give up on him. But right now, this moment after week 2 in the NFL season, I got an open mind. I don't have confidence he can keep it up. But again, the way he played against Washington, no turnovers, made good throws, gave receivers opportunities. His footwork is really good. Daniel Jones looked comfortable and confident in his offense. Like, he knew exactly where to go with the football every single play. And he knows his offense really well. It's a big deal. Like, his comfort level was an all-time high against Washington. And again, if he can do that every single week, I don't know, man. Another thought, I love the way Daniel Jones runs his own read. It's very cool that Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator, has stuck with it. It keeps calling it because he's great at it. I mean, he had this, what did he have? He ran 9 times for 95 yards and a touchdown. Daniel Jones was a leading rusher for the Giants last night. That's awesome. I love seeing that. And to be clear, another exciting fact that is, it feels almost like a victory in of itself is that Daniel Jones was not the reason why the Giants lost. Like, oh, hallelujah. Can you believe it? Dude made a lot of good throws, and he deserves praise. He had a really good game last night, and I understand anybody who wants to give up on Daniel Jones. I've been that guy for a long time because I realized his potential a long time ago. This guy doesn't have the potential to, I think, ever be a top 5 quarterback. But if he does what he did last night consistently the rest of the year, I have an open mind. That's good enough. Like, that's enough. Now, the leash is very short. You ever seen you ever play Mario, like Mario 64, where if you get close to the ball bomb guys, they chase you and they explode? The fuse is really, really short, kind of like one of those guys in Mario 64 where, hey, if Daniel Jones gets even close to the edge of being a bad quarterback, I'm out. Like, I have no patience for the guy. But if he plays good and consistent like he did like that all year long, I got patience for that. By the way, weird thought, I also really liked the all-blue sock cleat combo he had. It looked really clean down low. It's a good look. It made him look faster, which is weird, but it's true. And I don't know. I just think that Daniel Jones deserves hate when he earns it. But last night, there's no reason to hate Daniel Jones. In fact, he did nothing wrong to earn a loss last night. Now, the final thing is, from this game, we're 2 games into the NFL season, and I'm ready to believe that this Washington defense is overhyped. They had a hard time getting pressure on Daniel Jones. I expected it to be like the Arizona Cardinals, Tennessee Titans game from week 1, where they just got pressure constantly and were harassing Daniel Jones all night. That didn't happen. Washington's pass rush did not dominate like I expected. And by the way, that's 2 weeks in a row they've been ineffective getting after a quarterback. And also, the Giants' offensive line is not good. Like, they should not be having trouble getting pressure after Daniel Jones like they did on Thursday night. And during my predictions for the Washington football team, I asked a couple questions. I said this. I said, was Washington's defense great last year? Or did they just play a really weak schedule last year that inflated their stats and inflated their numbers? Remember, they were the number 2 defense on paper last year in the NFL, but were they actually really the second best defense in the entire league? Well, here are 6 of the 7 wins Washington had last year. They beat the Eagles twice. They beat the Dallas Cowboys twice without Dak Prescott. They played Joe Burrow, who got hurt partway through the game and left early. And they beat the 49ers with a backup quarterback, Nick Mullins. 6 of their victories, most of them were against bad quarterbacks or bad teams or even straight up backup quarterbacks. That's ridiculous. I think it's possible and even likely that Washington's defense has made it look even better than they were last year because they played a really weak schedule. I mean, playing Ryan Finley, Andy Dalton, and Nick Mullins at quarterback tends to make defenses look good. So I, again, am starting to believe, maybe this Washington defense really is overhyped and last year was a fluke because they played really bad quarterbacks over and over and over again.